Okay, see, I did the short one.
Nice.
Normally the intro is a lot longer with the countdown. I'm like, no, we are actually having a conversation that we need to bring forward and not just behind the scenes. So we're
Yeah,
gonna
my
go
mind
for.
was literally just blown. Like,
I
what?
know, I know. All right, anybody here, please. We only know you're here if you comment and you let us know where you're at, if you want to, especially if you're a real estate agent. Tell us where you're at. I do also want to say I am still not able to connect to Facebook. So anybody, for me, has to log in from LinkedIn or YouTube. Charlotte's got it attached to her Facebook. So hopefully Facebook will be covered there. So you just need to go to Charlotte's Facebook page. And I don't know, I'm explaining stuff about Facebook and probably nobody on Facebook is hearing this. Anyway, enough. Welcome. So this is a monthly chat with Charlotte, phenomenal mortgage lender, and we've got Karyn Henson, phenomenal realtor and broker, and we have quite a few topics I want to cover today. So I know we're going to go over a half an hour as we normally do anyway. But I want to start with NAR, and I'm actually wondering if I want to start with NAR just and just wait and see if we have a few people hopping in to ask questions. So what do you guys want to do? You want to do some of the fun questions I have first and then
Sure.
hop in, or do you just want to just continue our
Yeah.
backstage discussion?
No, we can do some fun stuff. That way people have time to hop on.
Okay. All right. So one of my questions is, you have your own superhero universe. You're a superhero. What do you bring to lending? Charlotte, you go first. So in your superhero universe, you're a superhero amongst everybody else. What do
Yeah.
you bring to the table that the other superheroes don't?
Man, I'm gonna have to say that it's I'm the magician. I was gonna say cook, but magician is better. I'm the
Mm.
person that can make chicken salad out of chicken caca.
I'm not sure I'm going to your restaurant.
Like I said,
Can we
magician
do a
sounds better
different
than cook.
metaphor?
Magician. I'm literally
I like the
turning it. There
magician.
you go.
Yes.
But yeah, I am the person that I'm the superhero that when you come to me and you have absolute, like, how in the world do you solve all of these problems? I can manipulate and find, I can manipulate the universe. I'm definitely Dr. Stranger.
There you go. Not Dr. Strangelove?
No, it's Dr. Strange. Dr. Strange.
Dr. Strange. Okay. All right, Karyn, you're up. How about you?
I am the resolution ranger because negotiation is my strong point, and I call it resolution because I think most times people end up feeling that way. Like we have created a solution to a problem as opposed to I got my way again. So it's done with some finesse.
Yes, that's an awesome one. Resolution Ranger. Okay, so if you want, actually, I think it might be too difficult in Restream. I was going to say add that next to your name, but I'm not sure that's an easy thing, and I don't want you guys getting messed up. So next time, maybe. All right, another question, and then we'll switch it over to NAR. The most unusual or impactful, either one, either unusual or impactful way you have served a client. Karyn, you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, and it doesn't feel that unusual to me, but I was sort of thinking about it, and I had a developer one time that was looking for a property in an area that didn't have a lot of land to build. So we were looking at infill projects, right? So we were moving in on the 3/4 acre farm homes that people still lived in, multi-generation. And what I did was negotiate with my buyer, the developer, to just give me free reign to figure out what it was going to take to make it happen. And I was with the sellers, I was like a toddler. They would answer something and then I would say, but why? And they would answer it again and I'd say, but why? Over and over and over again to find out like why they didn't want to move and sell, because they were being given this incredible opportunity to improve, their living situation, money in the bank, all of these things. And it often came down to things like, there was 8 generations worth of stuff in the barn. How do I go through that? This is too big. This is too much. And so negotiating with my buyer to just give me free reign and sit there in the living room with these people and just basically give them whatever they wanted, right? So
Yeah.
we took properties over where there was still mayonnaise and chicken salad in the refrigerator, right? Pack your suitcase, go. We'll have a car come pick you up, whatever it takes. And that was always really fun because of finding that solution.
Okay, I'm going to ask another question for you, Karyn, before we hop over to Charlotte. But I do want to say hi to David, and I'm going to do a shout out for David because he just designed and not emailed. Good grief, Tanya. David just designed and mailed my new business cards to me, and I got them last week. So anybody looking, and again, you can see I found David on LinkedIn. So yes, I'm going to do a shout out for David and business cards.
Good. I need that contact. So I need some new business cards.
David, meet Karyn Henson. Karyn, meet David. There you go. Hopefully he's still here listening and didn't log out because my chat wasn't working and it just popped up. So there you go. So David, hopefully you're still here. And I have a feeling if he was, he'd comment. But he did do a great job on my cards.
Great.
All right. So Karyn, I'm going to ask this question again, and shame on me for not being so specific. And you and I will talk about where you defaulted. How about a very unusual or impactful way that you helped a realtor client in your brokerage?
Oh my goodness.
Because you went right to real estate and being a realtor, right? And I'm like, I wanted you to, and then I wasn't clear enough. I wanted you to have your broker hat on with this question.
I can tell you that recently there was a situation where there was many layers in this transaction. I think there were 4 contingencies. And so our client was also the client of someone else, right? So in our case, this person was either buyer seller and then was someone else's buyer seller.
Right. Out of state.
Out of state. And so there was bumps in the road, and it wasn't really a big deal except for this other agent who was also representing our client basically decided to make things really rough for us. And there was group communications between the agents and the brokers, and she was really quick to get to that client before we could tell them. And it was our news to deliver, right? And that's just sort of setting the stage for how it went. There's a whole lot more to it. However, my poor agent just got badgered and badgered and badgered, right? He'd pick up the phone to say, hey, great news, we got this. She'd say, I already know it. And again, it went on and on. It was a lot bigger than what I'm explaining. And my agent, who's really, really good, just froze, and couldn't do it anymore. This client made this person feel as if they were inadequate, and they weren't. They were doing a great job. So anyways, I was able to come in. We actually started bringing all the agents and brokers on Zoom. So we're looking at each other.
You were hosting Zoom meetings for all the people in this transaction because nobody was playing nice in the sandbox.
No. And they were playing the game of telephone too, right? So it's like, I say this and then someone else repeats it and someone else repeats it. By the time it gets around, it's not even near where we started. So yeah, we just like drew a line in the sand. Let's start this, a new way. And we started acting differently. My agent was on the call, although they were pretty silent. I mean, I've never seen this agent take this on this way. This person was always very strong, great at what they do, but this person just really
beat him up.
Yeah, bad. So I basically just took it over like it was mine, and then also next level brought all these brokers and everybody in, because the thing of it is we still had a very viable transaction. And when you have 4 transactions lined up all together and across states, you are going to have some bumps in the road, period. Anyone that signed on for that and didn't expect it, that's their problem.
Yeah. So good job. I know that story. So I'm glad you shared that story. Yes.
For reminding me.
Yeah. All right, Charlotte, ball's in your court.
Oh man, a couple different options. So this one is something that actually happens somewhat regularly, but it seems to be a reoccurring theme, and it kind of goes into that chicken salad from Chicken Kaka. But on a regular basis, I will have, we call them rescue deals. We love rescue deals, by the way. Rescue deals mean that a client has gone to another company and they're in the 9th hour and they find out that they can't close. And so a lot of times it is how we build relationships. It's how we can show people why people choose to use Atlantic Bay, right? It kind of gives us a little shining star. We get to be the rescuers. So Tanya knows that speaks real dearly to my heart. But
Yes.
it's regularly, and I'm going to give a specific time where this is one of the ways that I help both my team by being the chicken salad person, but also it is something that helps the client as well. Is there's a lot of times that things like USDA, I don't know, you guys probably don't do a ton of USDA in California, but
No.
USDA rural housing is an income limit program. So if you make 1 penny over their income limit, then you cannot qualify for their loan.
Right.
And how they calculate and how you calculate income, it's the household, it gets really tricky. So you can literally, and this happens a lot in that 11th hour, where you qualified when you went in for the approval, but then you got a bonus or you work some extra hours, and now suddenly you don't qualify. And most companies, when you don't qualify, just were like, sorry, you don't qualify, you're going to have to switch to FHA, which is now 3.5% down versus a zero money down product. And a lot of times the interest rate on USDA is better than a lot of the other interest rates. The MI factor, it's a better product. So
It's interesting.
they're in this last little part, and now suddenly they're having to change products and having to change loans, and their payments probably going up, or they have to bring more cash. So it is kind of my specialty that when we have one of those, I will say, bring me all of the documents, bring me all of the numbers, and I can crunch a number. I can't do math, but I can do mortgage math, girls. I can do
I
mortgage math
know.
real good. So
I
I go
know.
in there and I literally, and I figure out how many hours they can work on their next paycheck. Like I get down to, like, you clock out at this time, you take this day off sick, and I'll find them a way to get back into the loan that they were wanting to qualify for. It's happened at least 10 times that I've been able to get
Wow.
them. So it means that we get an extension for a couple of weeks, explain to everybody they look great, we're going to do this path, and then we can get them in. So it's just a way of, again, knowing how to work with what you're given, taking some chicken poop and using magic and turning into something that actually works for the client. So it really helps. It helps the team because I can go in there and just really get to the nitty gritty of the numbers, but then it helps the client because, you know, it's unusual that they have to switch gears in that last second. So we can kind of fix with that. It helps.
Yeah, cool
Yeah.
story. Okay, so now this question you guys don't know is coming, but it's okay. It's kind of on the superhero question that we went to in the beginning. So Charlotte, I'm hearing about the magic in your superhero, right? And now I'm hearing about how you like the rescue loans, right? You're a
Mm-hmm.
firefighter. So your challenge, and I want you to bring it next time we do this, is a visual of your superhero.
Mm. Okay. Okay.
Right. So
Nope.
Karyn, you too.
Like an
Sorry,
avatar.
yeah, you have to have an superhero avatar.
I'm going to
Perfect.
write that down or I won't know.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and write down the 2 words. So what were your what's your superhero's name?
The
Um,
Resolution Ranger.
There
oh,
you
that's
go,
cute. I need to come
Resolution
up with a good
Ranger. I
name
need to
for
see a
mine.
visual.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like what David said. Mortgage match. Yes,
Mhm.
matchmaker. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you like have me be like about 50 pounds lighter and then get me out there on the dating world, Charlotte? Can you use
Um,
that magic?
I'm telling you, when I figured out that Zoom can do that for me in my Zoom calls, I refuse to meet anybody in person anymore.
That's funny.
Thank God for AI, right?
I know, right? So true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. So let's get serious for a little bit. And again, if anyone's listening and we don't see that you're here and you want to ask a question, please feel free to ask a question. We really want your questions around this. This is an important topic, and I'm going to be listening to a podcast tonight on it. Karyn's already listened to it, so she'll share some points. Plus, Karyn's been on top of it. Charlotte's been on top of it. We've been going live about this since I don't know, 6 months now. We've been going live on this topic as it's getting closer and closer to the August 17th date. So, Karyn, you go first. Give us an update, anything that's different, and then we're going to talk about some of the things we talked about behind the scenes. And I've never seen Charlotte go speechless, and we'll talk about that too. Yeah.
Well, I think as the date draws near, I see a couple things happening, right? Some agents are really beginning to panic a little bit. And then I would say that the advice in the industry is getting a little more practical, which I can appreciate because we've spent a lot of time talking about why did this happen? This shouldn't have happened. This should have never, well, it's here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the baby's coming. And one thing that I heard today that I thought was a great statement is just work within the spirit of the settlement. So there has been a lot of discussion about creating websites outside of MLS where we can, advertise any commission that we might be offering, different ways. And I know some people are joking about, in the photos are going to set the microwave to say whatever the percent is on that they're going to give away. And it's like the spirit of this was that broker compensation is basically supposed to be between the clients now. I mean, we're going to negotiate for them, right? But it's no longer necessarily a certain amount coming to the listing brokerage and then me paying the buyer brokerage, right? That can still happen, but the whole spirit is they want it to be another set of negotiation between the buyer and seller, navigated through their agents at offer time, right? So you go in and you see a house and you want to make an offer on it, just like you make an offer right now where you might ask for a closing cost because your loan requires it for you, or the house is maybe overpriced, so you're going to give the seller their price but ask for closing costs. It's all the same. Now we're just adding commission in there. And so I think that it's really important to take that advice about just work within the spirit of this. Now, certainly, I'm still going to have conversations with my sellers about being ready to offer a commission to a buyer's agent, because there's a lot of buyers that just simply don't have it and they can't have it. But it's going to be in the matter of be prepared for this, just the same as I currently prepare them for a buyer might have to ask you for concessions. A buyer might ask you for repairs. Like there's all these, we play what if at the listing presentation really, really big because the sellers have all these questions. What if this happens? What if this happens? This is just another what if added to the conversation. And, like I tell sellers now, we'll have a discussion about it. I'm going to tell you about it, but we're actually going to have a real conversation about it when we get an offer because then we know what we're dealing with, right? So that's where that's going to go. And as far as the buyer side, it's a very similar conversation. Yes, they have to sign a document now, right, that states that we're going to get paid a certain amount through this. However, it's important, in my opinion, to remind the buyer they're still in control of how that contract actually gets signed in the end, right? So if they are coming on working with me and have committed to me getting paid a certain amount of commission, and they find a house that's not offering any commission, then this is where we have the discussion with them. Like, how are we going to make this work? Maybe maybe you can't afford this house because of that. And we need to go find you when you can. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yes, I just have some questions, but I'm going to let Charlotte take a turn. So how is it affecting the mortgage industry for you? And
yeah. I mean, mortgage industry, we've put in some things that are kind of emergency stays. I think those emergency stays can absolutely change over time, but depending on how this is adopted, right? Because right now it is still considered a seller typical paid. Because right now, typically the seller is paying those commissions. If that changes it's not going to change overnight. We know this. But if that changes over time, then some of the rules might change. But the mortgage industry is, thank goodness, I was a little worried about VA, but everybody has the emergency preparedness done. So we've at least got that 911 crisis. It's not going to be that scary when it comes to your loan.
What does that look like, the 911 done?
Just means that the seller can pay for the closing costs and the realtor fees and it not be part of the max concessions. That's the biggest thing. So they still have asked, that comes up every single meeting when we're with the Mortgage Bankers Association, we're doing any national meetings. Are we going to be able to put them into the loan? No, guys, if that happens, I'll buy everybody a steak dinner. It's not going to happen because that goes into high cost, high price. There's so many things that go legally, state high cost. That's probably not going to happen unless they do lots of reworking of how the system is. So I don't think it's going to be part of the loan. Just like you can't finance in closing costs on top of the loan, right? We can't do that. We used to back in the day before there's all the regulations, we did this. So here's why my mind is blown. I'm going to go here. My mind is blown because you said that some agents are going to be calling the other agents and asking what that commission is going to be before they even show a property.
Yep.
So I have a question, and maybe I'm just clueless to this. Did you guys know that I have buyers that can't buy unless the seller pays closing costs because they don't have enough money? Did you guys know that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So do you guys call the seller before you show houses and say, are you guys willing to pay closing cost and not show the house if they're not?
Right. No, it doesn't
No.
happen. We deal with
Okay.
it at offer time.
It's the exact same
Yeah.
thing. You're
Yeah.
going to show all of the properties, all of
Yeah.
them. And then you're going to negotiate that closing cost just like you do seller paid closing. I have
Yep.
50, of my first time home buyers, 90% of them have to have the seller pay closing cost.
Right.
And that's not listed and it hasn't been in the MLS. Every once in a while you might get a little dangle, but really it's not.
Yeah.
You're going out and you're showing properties, assuming that you're going to be able, what you said, Karyn, you're going to negotiate at that time.
Yep.
So when I heard that, I'm like, whoa. People are actually saying that? Like,
Yeah.
I know. I've never seen you go speechless. and hopefully that'll change as things. I mean, again, I keep thinking it is settling down. I do want to say that it is settling down for most realtors. Not
Right.
everyone. I still hear them getting out of the business. I know I've got a client in the Phoenix area that's taken over 2 other agents' databases because they're getting out. And in fairness to the ones that are getting out, the ones that I know, not all of them, but the 2 that in this particular case, they're in a more mature age. They're in their 70s. They're like, I don't want to learn a new system. I'm going to retire. And this agent's benefited from 2 agents retiring now with their database. So any agent out there, please, if you hear agents leaving, especially if they've been in the business a long time and they're older, right, more mature, go negotiate their database, right? So kind of going off topic for a minute, but that is happening. NAR does predict 70% of the realtors that are getting their licenses and newer through this are going to back out. And I kind of disagree, or I read the stat wrong. I think it's going to be the agent that's been in the business 5 years or so that have been closing 3, 4, 5 homes, right? I see them getting out, but I've talked recently to 2 brand new agents just got their license, and they're like, they don't know any different.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah.
They don't have fear.
They don't.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting to kind of, piggyback on what Charlotte was talking about with the closing costs. If you do a CMA, which is when we go on a listing appointment, right? We take a market analysis to talk to the seller about. We talk very little about the list price. What we talk about is the bottom line, right? Because even let's just say there's 3 homes in a neighborhood, like we were talking about, backstage, all listed for $1 million. The net was not the same for every one of those at all. Right. There's closing cost concessions. There might be some repair credits. That's where we have to be speaking. And so it's the same thing with the concessions and such for closing costs. And then now, of course, the commissions as well. We have to have those conversations with the seller ahead of time. This is what it looks like if you don't help participate in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And again, it's all a what if. Let's wait until we have an offer and then figure out how to make that happen. Sellers are going to feel very different when they receive an offer on day 1 versus day 31, as an example.
You're right. Yeah.
About participating in that. We all know that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like the example we were talking again backstage, where this one person decided to, okay, I'm gonna be more, negotiable with paying the buyer's agent. And then once they said that and the home went under contract versus no, I'm not paying anything, and then it sat, and the other 2 homes, went pending and then closed. So everyone's going to learn through this.
I think so too. I think probably the largest challenge I can see is that when they remove the field in MLS, where we would normally state what the selling office is being offered for compensation, they're also going to remove all the historical data of that.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
yeah, when we are doing market analysis, we can presume that date, before the August 17 day probably had a commission. Beyond that, then we're gonna have to put a little more work in to figure out what happened.
Yeah.
So that we
Okay.
have a level market analysis.
Okay, so I was in a real estate Facebook group. So I was watching some of the comments in this real estate Facebook group. So it's not anybody that I coach, but it was just in this group and reading their comments. And I saw two comments. So I'm watching Charlotte's face on this one.
Oh Lord.
Right. Yes. So, and I need to turn off the balloons. So one agent said they are going to now have 3 tiers. As a buyer's agent, they're going to say to their client, for 1%, I'm going to do X, Y, or I'm going to do X. For 2% commission, I'm going to do X and Y. And for 3% commission that you're going to agree to pay me, right, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Thoughts on that?
Depends on the person.
The buyer or the realtor?
The agent.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. If I said for 1% I'll do X and then they needed Y, I know me. I'm going to do
Oh my God,
Y.
I know you. You're doing Y for free.
I'm doing Y for free.
Yeah.
So that just really shot me in the foot. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say it depends on the agent. And then there's this other thing that says if you do that, and I don't know that I'm against it. I think that we might come to that being a very much of a norm.
Mm-hmm.
But there is also that conversation when if you aren't me and you don't do Y for free, so you just do X. I'm a big girl in my reviews. I love my reviews. What are those reviews going to look like if I only did X? Now, they only paid me to do X,
Right.
but am I going to get that? You were amazing. You handled everything. You were wonderful when they only signed up for X. I feel like you could be, again, shooting yourself in the foot. It might come to that. But to me, if it was me, I don't think I'd default to that immediately.
Yeah.
That's me.
So what do you think, Karyn, on that? And what do you think the cure is? I have an idea, but you first.
So I completely agree with what Charlotte's saying. I think the lines become blurred, especially with a buyer package. Seller package, we've seen discount brokerages do that sort of thing, but it's very specific. I'm doing this and this, right? And I agree also on the, how are the reviews going to go? Because people don't understand things sometimes as well as they pretend to understand things, right? And then you get into confusion. Now we're already down the road. We're already partially committed. And now it's going to look like I want more, right? If you want that, I need more. Yeah. And I just don't think that that's a great relationship. The other thing that I find really interesting is that in a situation where a seller is offering a percentage, if you agree to X and it's quite a bit lower than what the seller is offering, you only get X. So now you've left money on the table, didn't cost your buyers, didn't save your buyers, you've just left money on the table. And I don't think that that's a great business plan.
Yeah. Say that one more time differently. I want agents hearing this because say that again.
I will. So it'd be really easy if we could talk numbers, but of course that's why we're here. We're not allowed to talk the numbers anymore. Okay. So if a seller is offering a commission to a buyer's agent, whatever that's been stated in their listing agreement, which
am I allowed to say the number since I'm not a realtor, licensed realtor?
We probably no, because okay. And honestly, I'm going to just really quick side note on that. Anyone who's listening here, if you're seeing a thread where agents are talking about that stuff, just leave the thread. Like, do not leave your name, any comment there at all. Just leave the thread. If you want to sit silently and read it, that's up to you. But I mean, don't let it be known you're in that thread. Okay, so let's just say, I'm going to go with A, B, C, D because we know A is smaller than C, right? So let's just say that the seller is actually offering C, and I've committed with my buyer that I'll just work for A, right? When you write that offer, you only get A. You do not get to move and get what that seller has offered. So that's being left on the table. And the only person that's benefiting is the seller. And you are representing the buyer. Right? It's not like, and yet the buyer's number didn't change because they were committed to A. However, your page has changed.
Yeah.
So do you want to put yourself in that position?
Yeah.
I guess the idea would be that if I was the buy side agent and I was only getting charged a smaller percentage because that's what I negotiated, if my seller was planning on paying a higher percentage, maybe I think I could negotiate my buyer a better price. Like, hey, I'm only going to charge you this percent, but we should be able to go in and offer a lower price because of that. And that's, I think, the spirit. That is the spirit of it.
That is the spirit of it.
Yeah, that is the whole idea. And in a perfect world, it should work. It's just when people start trying to finagle around it, that's where the unethical parts comes in. When people put things on the microwave, instead of just letting it be a negotiation, let it be in a negotiation and be valuable. Be valuable.
And, that is my my recommendation to my sellers will be flexible on it, plan for it, because you will attract more buyers. You'll have more buyers that will be able to afford your home. And let's leave it for negotiation. Let's see what we have, right? Yeah. If somebody's going to offer you a really low offer, then no. Unless it's,
that's right. It all comes back in, just like seller pay. I mean, just like seller paid closing costs. I guess my reason for my mind blowing right now is because I've been dealing with seller paid closing costs
forever,
since 2006 when they took that off the table, right? So, since then, it has been a requirement that if they want to buy this house, they have to do that. And there are times that they go and make an offer, and the seller won't pay seller paid closing costs, and so they don't come to an agreement.
They don't.
They just move on to the next one. So to me, that's not as scary. You let your buyers know that, hey, you don't have this money. This is what my fee is. This is, you've got seller paid closing costs. You've got this that you've got to have. When we go out there and negotiate, we're going to negotiate that in. And if it doesn't work, don't freak out. We'll find you the next house.
Right.
My understanding is about low 60% of FHA buyers need concessions.
Oh.
Does that sound about right?
I'm surprised it's that low. I am surprised it's that low. I will tell you that for my low down, if I am doing a low down payment loan, meaning my people aren't selling a house, they haven't saved up thousands of dollars, they don't have a gift, right? They don't have those financial extras. If they're doing 5%, I would even say conventional 5%. I am getting seller paid closing costs, or trying to. That's why our first time home buyers, think about this, back in 2021 when nobody was offering seller paid closing costs. Our first time home buyers were screwed. They couldn't buy a house because the market was just so crazy that the sellers just refused to give any concessions, right? They would just go to the people that were paying cash or this. That was because my buyers definitely had to have some seller paid closing costs. So I feel like it's going to be the same. And could we get into a market where it's going to be tough for buyers to get the sellers to pay commissions? Maybe, but it'll be short-lived, because when all the buyers quit buying, that inventory is going to swatch. It's a pendulum that's always moving. So I just say, there are going to be times, sure, where they're going to have to make more offers, and it's just like today when they want seller pay closing costs. But the pendulum swings, and then there's going to be offers where they're going to be like, "I'll pay all your closing costs. Just take this house."
Exactly. The dog.
Yeah. Right. We're going to see the pendulum swing to both sides of this constantly. It's never going to stay in a state, and we just roll with it. And you just get ready to roll up your sleeves and make more offers, or get ready to take on the benefit of that, depending on which side you're on, right?
Yeah. Well, it's going to be an interesting ride. I don't want to call it a roller coaster ride. I really don't. However, it's going to be an interesting ride. And like you just said, I remember when I was a realtor during 2008, 2009, doing more short sales than any woman needed to do. And yes, sellers were like, "Buy my home. What do you want?" Right?
Yep. Banks, what do you want? Please don't be a foreclosure.
I will say, and this is not to frighten anybody, but just back to the, work within the spirit of the settlement. before the lawsuits, the Department of Justice was hot on the heels of real estate agents. They were really digging around in our industry, and we're trying really hard to be sort of a disruptor as to how we do business. When the lawsuit was really prevalent, they got quiet. Well, they're back, and they've recently requested information from a few states. California is one of them. So they're digging around in our Department of Real Estate right now. And so I would just say to everybody, while you're figuring out how to negotiate this stuff, just make sure that you're minding your P's and Q's, and just stay within the spirit of the settlement.
Yeah. Yes. And so I'm going to go way back to the beginning of all this, the foundational piece of this. And again, both of you can disagree, agree. The safe space here is this is the time for buyers agents to really fine tune their superpowers. That's why I wanted to talk. You have to know your value, your worth. I know it. I know how hard buyers agents, sellers agents, realtors, lenders, I know how hard we work. And
Yes.
you work, right? And being able to articulate that with confidence and clarity will help, and have testimonials. A real quick story. I can't name names since I don't have permission to share the story. So I think you two might know who this is. But there's a real estate agent that was helping a client and got them to close. And it was a really tough transaction. It'd be one of the stories that she would have shared here when I said an unusual, impactful story, really went above and beyond to get this property to close. And after it closed, just by coincidence, this is when NAR first rolled out all this, the lawsuit, and they were talking about it at the closing table, and the clients said, I will use you forever. I don't care if it's 3% or 5%. I'm always using you. And she got a testimonial right there at the table. So proud of her. Get that in writing. I am paying for you next time I buy a home because you are worth it. And so those testimonials are key.
They are. When you talk about like getting the word out there and knowing our value, there's a consumer report that came out asking how many hours a consumer believes a buyer's agent works on a transaction. And I can tell you that it is this compared to the reality.
Yeah.
The reality. The same study shows that the average buyer's agent spends 80 to 100 hours on each transaction.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hours.
It's a lot of hours.
And what the consumer's opinion was really low compared to that.
Yeah.
So that's on us, right?
Yep.
We have to articulate that to our clients. And it's not about, oh, look at me, I work so many hours. Not at all. It's about making sure they know all of the things that we're bringing. And that doesn't even touch the experience we bring, the education that we bring, right? All of that.
Yeah.
That matters.
Yeah. And I'm going to say the discount agent may only be doing a small amount of hours. However, I know everybody, that I work with, right? They are not a discount agent. They are doing a lot of hours. And what that says to me when someone thinks they're only using this amount of hours is that they are staying calm and saving their client from all the headache. All the behind stuff stays behind for their client. Not that we want to always be saying, hey, you can't believe how many hours I've spent with this crappy agent on the other side of the deal. But, right, they're doing a good job keeping all that stuff, out of their view.
Ducking it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what the superhero should have been.
I mean, the real estate profession is why we have alcohol, right?
That's more like this, but
and how we can swallow the poopy chicken.
Oh yeah, for sure. All of that good chicken.
Okay.
It's not poop by the time we're done, I promise.
You started it. All right, so let's put a period on the topic. And the expense in those hours. So David, yes, I guess put a period, but I'm not going to put a period on it because David just brought up a really good point that we have not discussed. Is the money that you also spend,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, David, for bringing that up. All right, last question. what you cannot going forward be a mortgage lender. You cannot be a broker or a realtor. What would be your next profession, Charlotte?
That's so easy, and you know that's going to be
I
easy
know
for me.
the answer, but I want
She
everybody to
gave
know
me a
the
nice
answer.
little easy one here because it's my passion, marketing. I absolutely
Yeah.
love it. Like think tank style marketing. Let's get your business brand, your development, creative
Yeah.
ideas. It's
Yeah.
my favorite part of my
I'd
job.
hire you in a heartbeat. So there you go. I would. And I would. All right. So Karyn, how about you?
I'm
What
going
would
to
you do?
teach art to third graders because
Oh,
I just
Art to
remember how
third.
exciting it was to go to art class, right? You're so excited to see the art teacher because it's not an everyday thing, right? Everyone would love to come and see Miss Karyn and do watercolors. And they don't know that I'm not a good artist because they're only third graders. So it's
I
Okay,
love it.
so
That's a good job. I love
that's
that.
a good
Yes.
job, and I'm not
Uh-huh.
surprised on either of your answers, obviously. And Karyn, I don't know. I know that when you used to turn in pre-call sheets to
oh
me,
yeah,
they used to be so colorful and artistic with hearts and flowers, and I'm like, okay, there you
yep,
go. Yeah.
yep.
All right, Tanya, what's yours? You have to tell us what yours is.
What
You're not
would I
explaining
be if I
anymore.
wasn't a business coach?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I wanted to be, and I can't be now because I don't qualify. However, what I wanted to be when I was in high school, all the way through high school, was president of the United States. I
Mm.
always wanted to be president. And then I decided then I met a guy and went sailing for 8 years and blew off my full ride to Georgetown. However,
Mm.
that's what I wanted to be. What would I be going forward? A gardener. I love gardening.
Mm.
Nice.
We
Yeah.
do not
I
have
can
that in
put on my
common, friend.
headsets and garden and not have to deal with it. I don't have to get on Zoom. I don't have to get on the phone.
Mm-mm. No, if I'm playing
Yeah.
in dirt, I'm gonna do it Karen style on a wheel, throwing in some pottery. I'm not
Oh,
gonna
Yep.
go play
nice.
outside in the dirt. Yeah,
Crayons for
crayons. Yeah,
everybody.
heck yeah.
Yeah.
I
All
love
right.
that.
Thank you, David, for participating. And Rachel, if you're still on, glad you got on. She actually got on Facebook, so I don't know
She's
whose
on
Facebook
mine.
she's
Yeah,
on. She's
she's on
on
my
yours.
Facebook. Yeah,
Good. Awesome.
it worked.
Yeah. It worked. All right, everybody. We will do this again next month. I'm pretty sure I don't quote me, but I think we're the second Thursday in August we're getting on again, which will be perfect timing. Right? And if something really major happens, we'll just hop on.
Yeah, love
Right?
it.
Yep,
We're
yep.
here to serve, and you're welcome, Rachel. All right, I'm going to sign off, everybody. See you soon.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.